Hi, so this will be a little review over the Immortals versus Tribe Gaming. This is the second game of the Grand Finals, and let's take a little breather about both drafts. I think I'm not going to go a little bit too in detail about the specifics on the order in which they were picked, but I think drafts are very simple, right? Obviously, Immortals have a very run it down sort of composition that has to play very high tempo, looking to play on either one or two lanes, right? Whereas Tribe is going to be looking to play, front to back, right? They have the Garen as the front line, they have Lee Sin, Janna is disengaged, and they have a lot of poke and siege with the Varus and the Corki. Now, there are a lot of different timers that we can say, right? Where at the start of the game, we can think about it as Immortals team composition is going to be looking to fight early on, especially because when you are playing this sort of composition, you want to take as many flips as possible early game so that you can snowball the game, right? Meaning that they highly likely want to avoid cross maps, right? So avoid um, cross maps and then look to contest um, any objective really. And where Stripe side, they might look a little bit different, right? They want to cross map and they want to um, play around this cross map, right? So, for example, is that if Immortals were to go for Herald, right, meaning that Tribe would go for Drake, and then if they were to continue pushing for tier 1, you would go tier 1, and then you would basically make the early game a standstill by trading objective if we consider Dragon's gold to be equivalent to 1,000 gold, right? Which would mean that it's roughly equivalent to a tower take, and that you will basically nullify the Rift Herald if you are able to defend it if they use it for mid lane, right? And even if they are able to take mid tower here, you are still doing decent because if this whole sequence of events happens and you are like 0-0 the scoreline, um, it's still beneficial, right? You're scaling into the late game with Varus and Corki, and you still are going to be more useful than champions like Renekton, Ari, and Olaf that fall off really hard later on. So let's just see. Um, Now we see that Tribe is going for this like four-man mid-level one. Now this is something that I don't really like on champion like Corki, and we'll see why later on, right? Because a champion like Corki really requires more gold. It's a very gold-hungry champion that needs a lot of money and items for him to be actually doing something, right? And whereas you compare something like Ari, right, where she is a very base stat and ability reliant champion that doesn't really need a lot of money to be useful, right? Because she has very high base mobility as well as very high base damage because she has true damage on the Q and she has CC on her E, right? Meaning that she doesn't need any items for her to be, that good really. Which is why champions like Ari and TF are being picked a lot, right? Because they're very gold efficient champions. So I would more expect a team composition with Ari to do this sort of like 4 2-man mid level one, right? I think doing it with Corki is more, I would say, detrimental, right? Um, so it does benefit the side lane, right? That is for sure, but it still does take away a lot of Corki's potential as a champion, and it makes it seem like picking another champion would fulfill that role much more, right? Um, right. So Renekton does come here in the end to absorb the CS after Garen, big to equalize it in the side lane so that he doesn't just get destroyed 1v1. Now this is like slightly awkward, right? Because we can see that if the situation was that Renekton did not absorb any CS, right, in which case Ari would be level 2, this whole situation wouldn't be happening. Corki would not be able to touch the second wave, thus meaning that third wave is going to be extremely hard for Corki Listen to contest, right? Because Ari is going to have a level advantage, Olaf is going to have an easier time contesting because the wave is going to be stacked and pushing in, and then meaning that Lee Sin would not be able to abuse either side lanes even though they have winning matchups, right? Just because there is a 4-man mid early on and that Ari is a champion that is going to be able to abuse the level lead against a champion that isn't gold efficient, right? So Renekton being there early doesn't make sense. Sorry, being there late doesn't make sense because he's going to be late to the lane anyway. He's going to miss more CS, right? Garen is still going to be in control in this lane, so don't understand what was going down there. Right, but this happens anyway, which is very unfortunate, but it is whatever. Um, I don't think it doesn't affect much in the grand scheme of things. Ari did not get an assist, but you can see that there is already a very sizable lead forming in mid lane, right? Despite the fact that she didn't get any kills, any assists. So that's the first thing. Now we see Lee Sin path to bot lane since he started red as it usually happens. Taking bot crab. Now this is all fine because we see Olaf and bot lane has priority, right? Varus are very strong in the early game. Now going for a little bit of a skirmish is completely fine, but here is the thing and the problem with this skirmish is that Corki should not be trying to move first, right? Again, we talk about how Corki is a very gold reliant champion, and it means that Corki has to be playing very selfishly. If not, he's going to be very useless in the whole game, right? And we see him rotate, missing some CS here, which is very crucial, right? He missed one wave when he died, and he's going to miss another wave here only less than 2 minutes into the game, right? And the fact is that this dive that Tribe are going to be attempting is not going to happen because their jungler is here to defend it, right? Not to mention that Ari is going to be coming down as well, right? So the goal here should have been okay. We took the crab already, right? We skirmish, we out traded their ball lane. You know, the dive is not going to happen. Let's just push this wave, get a cheater recall, come back to lane way stronger, right? Lee Sin can go and farm his camps, right? And then base or farm two camps base and look for top crab while Garen has prior, or Garen can go and solo it, right? And this again, this is because when we are playing a scaling competition, there's no point in looking for something that is like going to be very coin flippy, right? We end up looking here later on, right, where Lee Sin almost dies, right? And this would have been like extremely disastrous of an early game, right? Because not only is your Corki now down like 400 gold, your Lee Sin is dead, right? The down buff probably would go over to Ari, and in this case, Ari is in like prime position to carry the game, right? Because Ari is a champion that is very hard to lock down, and an assassin that is very really good into immobile champions like Janna and Varus as well. So like the dive here is completely unnecessary, right? We already won the skirmish here. We took the bot crab, which is what we are looking for, right? Corki could just easily farm. Lee Sin goes back and farm his camps, and then we could have taken top crab. Would have been fine and dandy, right? We'd be one level above the Olaf. Bot lane would have a lead, right? Now, we look at first base here from Varus, and I think it's just like it's really awkward to be buying Tier and Warhammer. Right, I believe I talk about this in another video, but I think especially if you are looking to contest mid priority and look to poke a lot early on, Manamune is a absolutely shit item to be buying because it gives you almost no offensive stats. Right, it's like 25 ability haste and 25 AD, which is barely anything. Right, so in the first place, right, I think upgrading to tier is fine, but this should be a serrated Zerg, right? Because serrated Zerg early on in the game is way stronger than just any other item in general, any AD item. It's almost the same value as like a BF sword, even though it is like 500 gold cheaper. So why would you not buy a serrated Zerg, right? And okay, let's just continue. We see decent end up getting the top crab anyway. And goes here, gets free kill on the Renekton because Renekton does not know how to play around junglers, right? But we can see what I was talking about earlier is that Corki is in like a really shit position because he was roaming too much, right? Did not respect or did not bother getting priority first or sacked his wave to move first, even though the play was unnecessary, and end up being down in gold, right? And if we just pretend that this kill never happens, right? Lee Sin would have been ahead anyway, right? We see that he had first blood, but he's only 200 gold up, right? Meaning that if Corky didn't roam so much, Lee would have been ahead anyway. So, you know, right? We just have to play safe, wait for first Drake or first objective, right? Showing us a very useless replay. Um, Now, here's the very interesting part about the concept of what is supposed to happen, right? So we do see Varus end up picking up the Manamune, which again is a very extreme waste of gold, right? Because he had 3.2k gold. He had enough for Straighted Zerg, Warhammer, and a tier, which would have been I call it the ideal buy for Varus because it gives you the maximum amount of AD, lethality, CDR that you want at this point in time, right? And you don't lose that much efficiency on stacking your tier. And even if you stack Manamune slightly earlier, the difference is not that big because, Manamune does not proc on spells. And Varus being a very spell-based champion doesn't benefit that much from Manamune anyway. Um, Now, here's the first issue coming in with Tribe's approach to this dragon as well as Immortals, right? We noticed that Immortals recalled slightly later because Kaisa needed to get an upgrade and overall just terrible recall from their jungler. Even though he had enough to buy Death Dance, he didn't even finish it, right? Now, let's just think about it. When we are coming into um, a contest into objectives, right? If you ever want to start it first, or if you ever want to contest mid priority, you need to be 4 men strong at 4 minutes, right? This is a double 4 rule, and Varus Corki should be running mid together, right? And some people might say like, oh, what if Kaisa pushes this wave? But it doesn't matter because of the timing that you're playing on. At most, you miss like 2 CS, right? But for the opportunity cost, it is worth because for example, if Varus is here, right, and we have an outright like 4v4 in this situation, most AD carries would be running this way and would be much later to the fight, right? But for example, Varus is already in this picture and doesn't have to be in such an awkward position, right? Because Varus is always going to be much better in lane, in a safer position, shooting arrows, um, rather than in a flank position, right? Now at this point in time, Immortals are just waiting for Ari to throw some balls and out in and charm somebody, but unfortunately it does not happen. But we see Immortals finally group up, and the mistake here being made by Tribe is that there is no reason for you to start the dragon, right? Because the rule of thumb generally should be that any team that starts an objective is going to be, uh, disadvantaged, right? Because you are in a position where you're stuck here, right? You're stuck in this area trying to leash the dragon per se, and then now you're in a position where Corky isn't able to, play the front to back, which is the whole point, right? Garen is first, but he's not in the position for him to peel. So right now, if Immortals actually find a successful engage, they'll instantly just win this fight, take the dragon, and then probably rotate to Herald and take Herald as well, right? So if you're in a position where you have to play the scaling composition, right, you have to group mid, right? You play the 140, and then you play the 140 for one wave, right? You get vision on both Dragon and Rift Herald, and then you choose a side of the map to control, right? The wave is going to get pushed in. You send somebody to go and clear it, right? It doesn't. Then you react based on which objective they are starting first, right? Then okay, what if they don't start an objective? Then nothing's wrong, right? You're scaling composition. If they don't start any objective, meaning that there's no way for them to fight you, meaning that you are going to be scaling into the late game more comfortably, right? And we see here, if the Gragas was good and did a E flash onto the Gragas instead, onto the Varus instead, and use his cast properly, this team fight would have been easily just one-sided because this guy trolled his whole team here. Like he knocked them away when the Olaf altered, and like this Ari is like he could have altered 2 times and E flash or something, but it never happens. And like there's just like the perfect just perfect package angle here because Gregor's just fucked this whole team. So this is more so like bad mechanical error than a nice macro play from Tribe because to be fair, if they were against a really good team that knew the advantages of this team composition, it would be really easy for them to force a fight when you are stuck in this position. You have given the mid priority and you don't have priority in any of the lanes, right? Meaning that you are in a position where even if they don't take a fight, they could have easily just pushed mid, top, right, or mid bot. They could have pushed all the three lanes, taken Rift Herald, and even after you take Drake, you would be on. You would have no tempo on the map to act on. So it's just like really bad for you to, start an objective with no priority, especially if you are scaling composition. Now we see that they decide to cross map. Now I think this is a good play, right? Because you want to be forcing towers to be traded across, but we see that Immortals end up not trading anything, which is kind of sus. But it's whatever. They end up taking Herald instead, which is fine, right? Because Herald in the end is going to give you about a tower or so. So it's smart to trade a tower for Rift Herald. Now, this is the second issue that we see here, moving into the mid game, right? I would say the mid game is after both 4-minute objectives are down, is that Varus being the supposed like strong side champion, like why is Varus in a side lane with the turret already down, right? In this case, you want Varus to be mid, right? Because Varus is a stronger wave clear champion than Corki. He has more poke, and in this game, he's a lot stronger. So if you are going to be playing through mid lane into side lane here, which is going to be likely the case, then Varus should be mid, Corki should be top. You want to put Garen here for him to play weak side, and then he's able to clear the wave in case there are two men here and they are unable to dive him, right? Whereas now that you put Varus in this very awkward position, Garen is forced to go to a lane with the turret there, which he can never hope to destroy, and Varus is in a position where he's playing weak side, right, which is the worst position for him to play. And now it's very awkward because we're stuck here defending this tower rather than attacking this and trading sides, right? Again, we talk about how um, when we are playing a scaling composition, we want to be trading rather than contesting, right? So um, in this case, like we want to be cross mapping top lane, and it's definitely not ideal the fact that our two carry champions are playing weak side here. But we do see a swap here with Corki going to be playing weak side again, which is terrible because again he's already. I mean, he managed to catch up, but why would you want one of your carry champions to be the target, right? You want to put him in a side where you're going to be snowballing. Um, Now again, this is very awkward because we see, right, we are forcing a team skirmish here with no priority in mid lane, no priority bot lane, no priority top lane. So there's not really a play that we are going for. We're just fighting for the sake of it because we see an opportunity to, right? Meaning that even if we killed Ari here, we wouldn't be able to convert it into any tower, right? Because we don't have any wave to play on, right? The enemy team has cleared all the waves already. So, right, and okay. Let's just look. Like now we see what I mean, right? If this was Garen, this would never happen, right? And Corki would have a fine time into Renekton, and he wouldn't be put in a position where he has to burn his flash, possibly die 2v1, right? This is what it means to like establish a strong and weak side. And although Garen is strong, you have to take into account the champions itself because unless you want Corki to just not do anything the whole game and be behind the whole time, then you should think about, okay, Corki is already not doing that well, or in this case we can snowball him further. How do we do that, right? And if we have a champion that can be playing weak side very efficiently, who is it going to be? Now this was a good rotation, right? We see they push mid wave into looking for top side, but obviously Corki isn't here. Um, and of course it's going to be very dangerous, right? Because again, this rotation into top lane here is still very risky. It's still relatively early on in the game, and we're going to be running into a Renekton and Olaf um, with just a normal 4v4, right? So choosing to not fight here is okay, there's nobody. We don't have the responsibility in this game. In fact, it's more so that Immortals are the ones responsible for snowballing. So there's no reason for us to be thinking like, oh, I have to make this play, right? We should only make the play when enemy team is making the play on opposite side, right? So in this case, when we see them rotate over, which we did, is that we should be thinking about, okay, now we need to make the play on opposite side. But of course, um, we see Garen moving down, which is a mistake, right? Because we talk about um cross mapping, and we talk about also, just contesting sites in general. And if we are going to be cross mapping, then why move over? Why shouldn't we just move to Garen and take the tower, right? We trade one for one, and we don't lose anything, right? We extend the game, and they are unable to accelerate the game further by snowballing all of kills. So we do end up seeing that Immortals blunder really hard here and give over the mid tower like super free because Olaf decides to run it down for some reason, and Renekton as well. So I think it's really hard to say like what is the proper, like it's really hard to explain how it's like proper play is like because enemy team is just running it down. But um hopefully you understand what I mean. Right. Now Garen is like completely unnecessary fight here, right? Because you take the mid tower, what all you need to do is just base, you reset, and then you play the side lanes again, and then you want to play, okay, now this tower is still up, this tower is low. Maybe you want to play for mid tower instead, right? You play side lane into mid tower, meaning that you do like a 3-2 of sorts, and then, or if you wanted to go mid to top, you do a 2-3. Sorry, what the fuck am I saying? A 2-3, right? Because at this point in time, you should be thinking, okay, this tower is almost dead. It's going to be given over, right? Dragons in 30 seconds. I have enough time to make one rotation somewhere on the map, right? If we are giving dragon or if we are going to be contesting. Now, it's a little bit awkward here because Garen died and dragon is spawning, but it happens sometimes. Um, it's kind of cringe that they instant recalled, but I guess they had power spikes, right? Kaisa got split of the Ring King. Um, Now again, we're seeing that again tribe is starting. I guess this is fine to start, but here's something wrong with the posture, right? So when it comes to how you want to posture as a defensive team, you need to be holding the chokes, and you need to be understanding that your goal here should be to stall the dragon and allow your Corki and Varus to poke them while you're stalling the dragon, right? Meaning that you want to pull it to this side over here, right? And then you want to be posturing in this area, right, where you are able to control this choke and still contest mid priority if you have to move over, right? And the fact is that if they decide to go for side lane here, you go mid and take the mid tower for free. So a little bit awkward of positioning from Varus here, right, as well as Corki going from the wrong side. And then now in this position, right, they're looking for mid prior, so this is kind of free. Um, and we don't have the responsibility to fight, right? They decide to give us a free dragon. Thank you for that. And then mid tower is gonna fall down shortly after. Um, okay, not sure what is going on, like why they are chasing, um, and why nobody bothered to take the mid tower here, right? So it's a little bit awkward because the whole team is like scattered, right? And we did see like some people go up here. Like you don't need four people to be taking a 100 HP tower, right? Easily, Varus plus Garen could have done that, right? One person should be here, right? Pushing the top wave and zoning off Renekton so that you can make the easy rotation, right? You have a 3-man or 2-man into we talk about mid to top lane rotation, right? I don't know what Lee Sin is doing here, but it's kind of dangerous, right? A little bit risky. Now, right, this is what we talked about, right? We got the mid push, we got we got the priority, but because we don't have any side lanes to play on, we end up not being able to get a top tier one, even though it would have been really easy to. Um, and this is what I was talking about, right? There's no reason for us to be playing bot side because we know that we were controlling top side earlier on, right? Why are we taking a flip here when we can just wait for our team to get onto the map first? Now, I I mean, I I think like this fight here is completely unnecessary, but I guess it's cause like enemy team is just sort of running it down, right? Because they're playing way too aggressive and Ari is not running to help his team. Instead, he's going to push a mid wave that is going to be extremely useless because nobody like somebody is just going to catch it, which is going to be Garen that's coming out base, right? And even if you push this in, like it's going to be stalling on the tower, and it doesn't matter if you lose one wave because your team is just dying, right? So I'm not sure what's going on here, right? Because the right play would have been okay. They force a flash, right? Ari goes here. They're 4 men strong. They can look for a fight. If you decide not to fight, you just push for mid prio and you play for top lane again, right? Or you get vision around Baron. Now, miraculously, Renekton is able to take this tower because there's a low amount of side lane pressure from Tribe onto this top tier one. And till now, we still see that Garen is still top side and Corki is still playing weak side, opposite of the Baron, uh, which is a little bit awkward. But this is fine invade. I think enemy team at this point in time are way too behind to do anything into the Lee Sin virus because it just one-shot somebody. I think this is really good rotation from Corki, right? You push the neutral wave, and then after that you rotate over to Baron, which is fine. Um, so we do see Corki make a good rotation here onto the top side of the map, and they're going to be playing for this tier 1. Push mid, rotate over, again another good rotation, textbook stuff. Looking for picks in enemy jungle. A little bit awkward that there isn't anybody sweeping again. Because likely is that you want to sweep once and sweep again once you know enemy have been there before. And now this is a little bit awkward because at this point in time, you guys could be looking for a dive on top tier 1, right? Because Garen is in position, the wave is coming in, and then you know that even if enemy team is going to be coming as a response, you're going to be 5v2 in this position. There's no way that you lose, right? We are back to AFK farming. So right now they are looking again. Immortals are looking to pressure this bot side tier 1. And here's the weird thing, right? Is that why does neither of these teams consider doing Baron? Because again, for both teams, I think they're going to be it's going to be really easy to rush this Baron, right? And in the first place, if their good enemy team is going to be committing like 2 people, especially their main carry, which is going to be Kaisa, into a bot tier 1, if you start Baron and if even if you can't take it, if you turn on like multiple people, you're going to be able to kill all of them and take the Baron afterwards. So again, just a principle of cross mapping and you know not bothering for useless objectives like this tier 1 tower. Right, it's 100 HP, there's no point defending it. Um, just trade on this tier 1 and just pressure Baron. It's even possible that you rush it at 10 minutes because you have double ADC and you're so far ahead. Right, and now we finally see Garen be in the weak side position as his champion is meant to be, but he's pushing too far. Right, weak side position, your only goal is to defend the wave pushing into you or the neutral wave at the middle of the lane, right? You should never be going past that, and in the first place, even if you go past here, what is the point of it, right? There's nothing to do, just clear this and go and do grump or something. Right, whole team is not on the map. This play can only be made viable or excusable if your whole team is on the map and they are pressuring Baron side and are starting to threatening a Baron rush, right? If not, there's absolutely no point in doing this. Right, so we did see like both teams sort of blunder the mid game into the dragon. Um, Now we look at the again, Garen gets caught before dragon. So now let's look at this third dragon, right? I still do not understand why Immortals does not start off with a Ari Charm, because that is probably the best and easiest way for you to find a pick. And also not to mention that nobody is in position in either of these bushes to catch somebody, which is a shame because it's very easy to do so with their champions. Um, Yeah, and somehow the fight starts off with Olaf instead and Renekton being out of position. Like they could have easily just rushed the dragon, right? Played around the blind spots using this bush and this bush, right? You'll be tribe will be forced to enter these areas and then you turn on them once they have entered, right? Which is again, you want to make things easier for yourself as a team composition that wants to force a team fight, is that you want them to be walking into you even though you are going to be engaging first, right? Which means controlling chokes and understanding how to play around said chokes. Now the team fight again is poorly played at the start because why is Corki dashing in? Right, you see Olaf completely running it down, you save your package, and if you wanted to, cut them off, like you don't have to do it at this angle. Or at the very least you should be flashing out immediately afterwards. Because staying against this Gragas, which by the way, this is what should have happened at the first dragon. Um, it's just going to end up like this, right? There's no other outcome here that would have been expected. It's just that Immortals is way too far behind, and Olaf was running it down when Renekton wasn't in position. And we see Renekton pop his ulti last for some reason. Now, as a scaling composition, being this ahead in the mid to late game is almost for sure going to be GG, right? But let's just look at the Baron capture and how they approach it. um I think this is very standard, right? You want to be pushing mid lane, have priority on top lane. You don't care about the bot lane because it is completely useless when it comes to this part of Baron, and you just trap, right? Enemy team is sort of trolling because they have crab and they know that Baron is not being done. So, but for some reason they decide to check this bush. Um, so end up getting a few free kills, a little bit of fun here coming from for red team, just a little bit of fun, killing more people, just gonna be resetting and doing the exact same thing over and over again. Um, right, we see both teams leave the bot wave at neutral, which is fine. Right, you just siege and play front to back with Varus Corki here. There's absolutely nothing they can do. I don't know how this ward managed to get here without being swept. But it's definitely illegal. Right? Varus is just like insane value. Now, here's the thing about this position, right? Is right, is that Tribe doesn't have to be scared of engaging. Like, how is Renekton able to stand in this position and not get instantly one shot? Right? You have Corki package, and although I understand that Lee Sin isn't there, but I'm pretty sure you 100 to 0 him with silence, with package, as well as Garen ulti and Varus ulti. And being the fact that you one shot somebody, it's going to be extremely easy to take the Baron 4v5. Also, it's very awkward that Corki is positioning this aggressively rather than standing on the same line as Varus. Because like if he got charmed here, and Kaisa was in a position to fly in and one shot him, it would have been really bad if Corki instantly died. Right. Now, I don't know how these two wards are here, right? Because typically when you are getting mid priority and you want to be controlling river, you should have at least two sweepers, meaning that you are able to sweep river once, and then if enemy is able to retake, you're able to sweep it again after retaking mid priority. So kind of weird. Now again, it's slightly awkward to be starting it, but I guess the reaction um from Immortals is just a little bit too slow. And although they really tried their best with a lot of AoE, but they're just way too far behind. Okay, take Drake, and then the Baron. Right. Now, here's sort of like I would say a mistake. I think even though you have three dragons, I still feel that Baron is overall a much stronger objective because I have seen teams win with Baron, but I've not seen teams 100% win with Elder, right? Um, this is just like a minor thing, I guess, because he was so like the tribe is just so ahead. But thinking about the position in which you guys were in, right? Like look at here, right? We killed them, right? Take Baron, run over to Dragon. Like you have enough time. 20 seconds is enough time for you to be bursting it, right? Or if you feel that you're too low, okay, we reset. Take Baron, play the map first, right? And then take the Dragon, right? Because the Elder Dragon is going to be waiting for you, right? And what does Baron naturally give you? Baron gives you priority, it gives you extra stats, right? And it gives you the ability to easily control lanes, right? Meaning that it's going to be extremely easy for you to take the dragon afterwards without any contest. And you can say the same about dragon. It's just that um dragon just gives you more ability to team fight. Barbarian gives you the same, and it also gives you faster recalls, meaning you're going to have faster tempo, and it also is an objective that's going to give you, you know, base stats and ability to just control the lanes in general. Right, I mean, there's nothing much else to say. That's going to be it. Right, thank you very much.